Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Open Table Adventures. As always, I'm Dan the Baker, and I'm here today with Table Talks, our little interview series where we talk to some of my and hopefully your favorite TTRPG content creators from all around the internet. Today, I have with me Devon. Hi, Devon. How are you, Dan?
I'm excellent. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. So let's start off. Just you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do.
Yeah, my name is Devon. I am the founder of StartPlaying.games and the creator of Total Party Chill.
Nice. Both wonderful parts of the TTRPG space.
Thank you.
I would love to know, kind of before Total Party Chill, before Start Playing, where did you start with TTRPGs?
Yeah, this is actually a really funny story. So I didn't realize this was my start until I was talking to someone. It all kind of came out. So this is a recent discovery, but I was maybe like 3, 4, or 5 when I started playing tabletop RPGs, but on a technicality of sorts. My mom was my first game master, and this is because she was a big book person, and so we went to secondhand bookstores a lot, and I saw a book that just looked really cool, and I wanted her to read it to me. She's like, pick out a book and I'll read it to you. I think it had like an orc on it or something, or like a Pegasus, but it was one of those choose your own adventure books, but it had a dice rolling component. So it's like it was like one of the OG solo RPGs. But she read it to me, and then I would roll the dice. And I have these like core memories of being at like Round Table Pizza and her reading to me, being enthralled and like rolling the dice and like kind of knowing that like she would fudge some things and like look for the right page. So that was my first like tabletop RPG experience, was like my mom reading Choose Your Own Adventure books with like dice rolling components.
That's so cute. So you've just like since the beginning have just been into this kind of stuff. That's so cool.
I anything with imagination has always drawn me, and that one experience, the moment I found out what D&D was like, I need this in my life.
Yeah. Have you always been like creative, like with like any like writing or art or anything like that?
Yeah, I was definitely the kid. Like when there was a presentation assignment, like when there was a visual aid, I would always pour all of my energy into like that rather than the actual paper. It's like, I can make a video, or I could, make a diorama, or I always definitely lean towards like the creative side of projects.
Yeah, showboating a little bit.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And then so how did we go from Choose Your Own Adventure book to where we are today, to having Total Party Chill, Start Playing, and all that?
Yeah. In like middle school, I found out about Dungeons and Dragons, and it's wild because like it wasn't until like later in life I found all these other systems. But in the late 90s, I was just playing 3rd edition in like a comic book store with the comic book guy Dave, who worked the counter with my friends, him running us games. But the first book I ever bought was the Dungeon Master's Guide. I was like, I want to run the story, and then so that's what I bought with my allowance. But as time went on, I remember 5th edition had come out again, and I kind of renewed my interest in the hobby, and I started running some friends through the game, and I started running more and more friends through the game. And before I knew it, like I was running like a bunch of learn to play sessions like every week. I at least once to twice a week I would have like a new group of people come over to my house, and I would show them how D&D works. And it became this really fun like opportunity to show people like, this game brings me so much joy. And I still had like a weekly game with some new friends that was happening every Sunday. And then one day we invited a friend who Nick Tanio, he worked at Twitch, and he said, I always want to get into D&D. I watch a lot of it on Twitch. And I was like, why don't you come and be like a guest player? So he came, he played, and afterwards he's like, hey, have you ever thought about streaming your stuff? This was incredibly thrilling. Like, this is better than a lot of stuff I watch. And I was like, no, I hadn't. But once he put that seed in my head, I thought to myself, we're going to figure out how to make this happen.
Yeah.
And that way itself was its whole own ordeal of like trying to figure out how to like, stream all from the same place with, multiple cameras and mics. Oof, that was very difficult, because there was no instruction of like, hey, here's how you do a multi-camera, multi-mic production. You know, there was so much about like remote games and remote streaming, but there was nothing about in person.
Yeah. The tech side is always, I feel like, the most complicated side of like trying to do actual play and streaming and stuff. Because like it's like we all know how to play TTRPGs. That's the easy part. It's actually getting other people to watch it. Having the ability to get other people to watch it is so it's nice to have a tech person there who knows how all the stuff works and knows how to troubleshoot it for sure.
I mean, I've had to learn this all by just trial and error. A lot of YouTube videos, taking a lot of like very knowledgeable people to lunch to pick their brains, and that's what's allowed me to like right now I'm in the studio, but we have several cameras set up, 7 mics, mixers, encoders, like all this technology that like I never would have known how to use it unless I had explored, creating actual plays.
Yeah, for sure. And then what about how did Start Playing come to be?
So that's funny because like it kind of came about the same way as Total Party Chill. I was looking at like, okay, well, what equipment would I need? And after doing some research, I was like, this is gonna be kind of costly. And I was thinking like, okay, I need like this much money. And then I was running some people through like a learn to play game at my house one night, and one of the people at the table was like, hey, this is really, really fun. I think my coworkers in office would love this. Would you come and run a game at my office? And in my head, I'm thinking, I don't know your coworkers. That doesn't sound fun to me. And then he finished by saying, our budget for things like this is around $500. Which I replied, that's amazing. That's exactly what I charge for corporate games. And
that's so a light bulb moment of your
So I ran that and I was like, I wonder how many other like companies and people would be looking for a GM, or to like learn to play. And so I spent a weekend. I built a website. I did some kind of like basic performance marketing, things like that. And within about 2 weeks, I had my first booking from the website. And then 2 weeks later, I had a second booking. 3 months in, I had around 5 to 10. And this is all moonlighting. Like I wasn't doing this, like as a full-time job. I was just like doing it after work and on weekends. And so every game I ran helped buy new equipment and helped buy like what we would need to stream. So that's kind of like why I started running games professionally, is because I want to be able to like have everything I need for a studio. Now over time we've had many different studios, but the first one we had was a studio at my old office, but we could use on the weekends. My office said, yeah, you can use our studio on the weekends, but we would have to bring in all of our equipment, all of our backdrops, all of our mics, cameras, computers, every Sunday to stream. And essentially we'd get there at noon and we'd spend 4 hours setting everything up to stream for 3 hours and then break it all down and go home. It was brutal.
Yeah, that sounds rough. That sounds not fun at all.
But we gained a lot of traction on Twitch very early, and the professional jamming continued to grow as well. And they were kind of tied in a sense, where like a lot of people who would see on Twitch would also like reach out from the website, be like, "Hey, I've seen your channels. I would love to hire you. We're looking for a game here at Google or Facebook or things like that." But then I got a call one day from Bloomberg Business Week, and they're like, "Hey, we're doing a story on professional game masters. We'd love to interview you." I was like, "Absolutely."
Oh, wow.
So they came to our studio, which at that point we had like a long-term space. They took a bunch of photos, of me. They came by one of the professional games I was running and kind of like observed it. Hyland, who is a fantastic journalist, also an author of a fantastic book about like the history of Monopoly, and like it's its own separate story you should definitely check out if you're listening to this. But then I ended up becoming the feature of the story because Mary liked my story, the story so much. Yeah. So one day, Bloomberg Business Week had this big photo of me on it talking about the rise of the professional dungeon master. And because of that article, I started getting emails every week from other game masters being like, "Hey, I want to do what you're doing. How could I do that?" And then over about a year, I got something around like 600 emails from other game masters hoping to do what I am doing. So I made like a Facebook group. I made a newsletter. And I started just trying to find resources and solutions for people that wanted to do this. Because I think if you could find joy from what you do to pay rent, that's great. You know, if we all have to pay rent, might as well enjoy it, you know? So that was, you know, kind of the beginning of it. And I really wanted to build something more, but I couldn't take on a project like that by myself. I was thinking it'd be cool to have like a website where everyone could find everyone. But then one day, it was actually the day that San Francisco announced it was going into lockdown during COVID. It was like, hey, we're going to be in lockdown, starts today. And I got a random call, and I didn't know the number, but I thought, hey, I'll pick this up. It was my now co-founder, Nate Tucker. And Nate was like, hey, I would like to book you for a game. Guess it would have to be remote because this lockdown thing, or we can do it after the lockdown ends. But and then he started asking me product questions, and my day job was a product manager. So I was working at this place called Chubby Shorts. I was a product manager for like the e-commerce side of things, and he started asking me these user interview questions. And he's like, "What's the hardest part about your job? What tools do you use?" And I said, "Hey man, what are you building?" And he's like, "Well, I'm not building anything yet. I'm trying to get an idea of the industry." And I told him I was a product manager. He's like, "Oh, okay, that's why you recognize the questions." We started talking for a bit, and then he said, "I had this idea for like a website to be able to find professional dungeon masters so you can find games." And I told him, like, I've had this exact same idea, and we started going back and forth talking about it. I told him about, I've been thinking about this forever. All these GMs are looking for this solution, and he was like, and now if you flash back a little bit, Nate was currently in Y Combinator, which is this very prestigious startup accelerator here in San Francisco. It has like the lower acceptance rate than Harvard. It's a big deal when you get in. And so he had applied, and he got accepted as a solo founder, which they rarely do. But he was building this fintech product, and he didn't really like it. And he took that, the classic startup advice: build products to solve problems you have. So he just was thinking about the problems he had, and it just so happened it was the weekly D&D night, which they've been trying for like 4 months to happen, and every week the game would get canceled because the person who was going to be Dungeon Master that week just like flaked or didn't have enough stuff prepared, and they would end up just playing a board game. Yeah. And he's like, why is it so hard to play D&D? Like, why? And he like looked, and he's like, I wonder if there's like professional Dungeon Masters. So he searched professional Dungeon Master, and Bloomberg Business Week came up with the article that I was in. Your whole face, and just so, right there. Yeah, right, exactly. So then he reached out to me, and he's like, hey. And about 6 hours later after that phone call, we left, and the next day he called me. He's like, do you want to be my co-founder and build this? And I was like, absolutely. And that's how StartPlaying started. Wow. Just saying, the whole time you were speaking, I was seeing the whole social network movie retelling of this story. So, if you ever want to sell the rights, I know some filmmakers. Hopefully with a better ending than social network. I know, right? But I know. Hopefully, it's like a very lighthearted one. Like, oh my god, we're making it easy to play games. But yeah, that's so cool. When I first heard about StartPlaying, I was like, oh, it makes sense for something like this to exist. Because there's been professional dungeon masters all over the place, but it's always like, oh, go to your local game store. They might have an opening for you. They might have like a thing for you, or like if you're lucky enough to reach out to the like you did like with the corporate stuff. Do corporate games, but then like a lot of that is kind of like knowing the right people, or just like a little bit of luck. It's a lot of luck. So StartPlaying obviously makes it so much easier. I don't want this to be a whole like StartPlaying ad, but 100%. I've already done a couple of those. So I know. But I think just like in the like TTRPG community, I think one of the big issues is the lack of the ability to monetize. StartPlaying is obviously one big solution to that. At least one part of it. It's a lot of GMs are like, hey, I want to do this other thing, but I don't have like extra money for it. Like I do know some GMs who were like, I'm writing a module and I want to sell it, but I just don't have extra money from my day job to like buy art and like commission artists. And so they're like running games to be able to pay artists to make art for the module that they want to sell. So it's like this, it really is fueling a lot of like the creators that are out there. And I know a lot of like streamers who are like, doing this, and they're like, now I could buy really nice gear, and now I could buy this for my show.
Yeah, that's definitely the money side is definitely a huge issue of it. But you said you have like that background in marketing and like stuff like that, so I'm sure that helped you just at the start, like growing that, like you knew kind of the almost like the buzzwords to be able to get into people's emails and get them to pay you.
It's one of those things. When I was younger, my grandfather had a saying that he would say pretty often, which is, if you're a mechanic, don't be an accountant. And it was just one of those things, like, if you're really good at something but you're not good at something else, like, try not to spend your time on being good at that unless you want to. And I think the problem today is so many people have to be their own accountant, they have to be their own social media marketer, they have to be all of these things just to do the thing they love. And it just creates a lot of like barrier to entry. Like, if you don't know how to market, then you just can't do it. Sorry, you won't succeed. And so the labor that it puts on people is just like massive. And so like the idea was like, hey, how can we take some of that off of people's plates? How can we make it easier to like record your transactions? How can we make it easier to like find players? What can we do so you could just focus on running like amazing games? Yeah,
for sure. It's funny because I've talked to a handful of other people who run actual plays, who do streams and stuff, and the one common factor is everyone agrees that like it takes a village. Like it takes you need to have. You can't be like the dungeon master, the person in charge of the streaming stuff, the person doing all the social media stuff. Like you need like a handful of people to be able to like actually get things going.
I mean, think about it. Think about like a production that is like a studio. Like how many people are I think there was over 100,000 people that worked on Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse, right? Like. And I think over like 30,000 were just animators. So if you look at that, 70,000 people just put a film together, right? So even though like actual plays are not like film quality, they're a different medium, but it's still like one person could do a lot, but it's still so much to ask of one person. Yeah.
That's also why whenever people, if they like get down on themselves, if they're comparing their streams or actual plays to like Critical Role and Dimension 20 and things like that, I'm like, look, like on Dimension 20 specifically, look at the end credits. Look at how many people work to put that together. Like just even like the art department itself is like, I think there's like 8 or 9 people who just work on like the sets and minis and stuff.
It's Rick Perry that's the head production guy, right? He has this massive team, and so it makes but the thing is, just because you don't have a massive team doesn't mean you can't, produce awesome stuff. Sometimes limitation makes you more innovative, and I think that's really fun. Like, I've always kind of prided myself with Total Pride Chill on like how we try to innovate and how we always try to like find out new ways to do things that can separate us, and push the envelope, whether it's like tech side or it's like storytelling side or like how we involve an audience.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like here it's really it's just me and Alex who are running things, and so we'll look at like, okay, here's the things that we know we can do, that we for sure can do. Like here's like, we know we have this set of skills, this set of equipment. Here's the things we want to do. Here's how we can maybe like crossover and figure out and like learn and like develop and innovate. I think that's the what's the saying? There's like is it necessity is the mother of invention, I think.
Yep 100%.
Cool. Moving away from kind of the tabletop side of things, the business side of things, outside of all that, like what do you find where do you find your joy, like outside of Start Playing and TTRPG stuff?
So the things that like I do the most outside of tabletop RPGs is volleyball and tennis. I mean, I'm talking like twice a week each. It's raining right now in San Francisco, so we haven't been able to go outside. So all the courts have been closed, and I'm like missing it desperately. But those are like, I have like this weird affinity for like those types of sports. Anything with a ball and a net, I guess. but I love volleyball. I'm also like the team dad and team coach. I bring snacks for afterwards. I'm if I'm on the sidelines, I'm definitely like cheering everyone on with like bizarre Ted Lasso infused motivation. So yeah, those are the things I like that bring me so much joy. And then biking. I love just riding my little bike through San Francisco. I live right next to Golden Gate Park, so it's like absolutely beautiful. It feels like an enchanted forest a lot of the time. So those are the things that probably bring me the most joy as far as like activities. And of course, my wife.
Yeah.
My wife.
Yeah.
You bring me so much joy.
I wasn't gonna say anything. It's just I was gonna like, okay, I guess if he doesn't he thanked Jesus, he thanked God, he thanked his parents, but have you always been like an active person? Like, have you always been into sports and like biking and stuff, or is that like an adult thing that's happened?
I think that's an adult thing. It was maybe like 8 years ago I got really into volleyball, and it was just there's something about the team camaraderie and the competition. There's something that goes into it, and it's I played co-ed. I played once that was just men's, and like it got really toxic. Everyone was like too obsessed with winning, and so I switched to co-ed, and it's been really like everyone. The team I've been on for quite a while, like everyone's just like, we want to do good. Like it's not always about winning, but we want to do good. Or we want to do well. And so there's just something about like I get excited every day. I'm like, oh, I'm playing volleyball tonight. And I think it's weird because I wasn't really into competitive sports when I was younger. But now there's this big part of me that just like enjoys it so much.
It's funny just hearing you say like, oh, as a group we want to do well, we want to have that, and I always think it's fun in TTRPGs like when you as a table, when everyone's just like, oh, we just want to have fun, tell a good story, I think that's like it's funny, just that comparison of like everyone being on the same page. It's great.
I'm trying to think about what would it be like if you had competitive actual plays.
Oh goodness, awful. I think.
I know, like how I don't even know how that. I don't want to go into the sinkhole that is that question, but like I immediately started thinking like, how would you be competitive against an AP?
Yeah, wild. Yeah, I once had the idea for a like TTRPG reality show competition, and I was like, I don't know how it would work, but could be fun.
It could be. That sounds like a blast.
Yeah, like just like.
Listen,
yeah,
I've osmosised and sat in the room for enough Bravo that I would annihilate at this.
Yeah.
My wife is my coach, and I know every housewife.
Oh wow, that's a good starting point for sure. So I hate to do the like, where do you see yourself in 5 years kind of question, but we were talking about innovation, about that kind of thing. Like what is your like goal? Like what is your like, this is my next big thing that I'm striving towards?
Yeah. It's definitely split between, like I want to I would love to see like StartPlaying be able to host over 1 million game masters running, paid games every month. Yeah.
You're getting there.
I know, right? And that seems totally feasible with how like things are growing and how many people love tabletop RPGs. And for Total Party Chill, I would love for Total Party Chill to continue growing the way it has, at the rate it has, so we can continue like pushing the envelope and being innovative and having these stories with other people. I think probably the next year or so, we're gonna slowly get to the part where we can start like bringing people to the studio and like flying folks in to like record. And there's also some parts of me that like I'm excited to hopefully allow the space to be used for others to create their shows. So those are some of the big goals. I think 1 million subscribers on YouTube is part of that too. That feels like a nice goal. 1 million, yeah, that feels good.
A nice round number for sure. Yeah. That's
5 years easy. Let's do it.
There's been a thing going around on Twitter of like, what is your like goal as a TTRPG person? So that's I was thinking about that kind of stuff as well. So I was like,
what about you?
I mean, I would love to. I have never done TTRPG stuff like in a studio, because the East Coast really doesn't really have that many. We don't have like a big studio setting, I guess.
Space is at a premium.
Yeah. So that's like even like helping set that up is like a big goal of mine. Is like helping being a part of that, like growing it, and just help like talking to more people like you and like helping just like grow the community and grow my own community is my goal really.
I love it.
Yeah. Sorry, my train of thought just went right out the window. But yeah, speaking of community, I would be remiss if I didn't say like Start Playing has had a really big impact on the TTRPG community. I think it's like just like I said earlier, just the idea of like, hey, this is like you kind of mentioned earlier, like this is a thing you like to do, you might as well get paid for it. Like giving a chance for TTRPG creatives to easily enough monetize their things, I think it's innovative and a great addition to the community.
Yeah, it's important. If we all have to exist under the bane of capitalism, the BBEG or for any tabletop campaign.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier when you are enjoying the work you do. And a lot of people are finding more opportunity because, I've met some people that are kind of homebound and they have to do work from home jobs, and because situations in their life has changed, and so a lot of the skill sets they have just aren't applicable to at-home work that they were doing before, and now they're able to kind of find those opportunities again. I've met a lot of people who are, they've kind of switched careers because they can do this full time and make more than they did at their old job. And that's great. Like I'm hoping that we can find a way for GMs not only just to make money running their games, but also find a better way to make it easy for them to make money off of the content they create. There's all kinds of stuff that I think needs help to be better monetized in tabletop RPGs, like art commissions. It's very hard unless you have like a good roster that you followed. I don't know if you've ever used Twitter to find an artist, but it's so full of bots.
So full of, yeah. Anytime you tweet out like, hey, I need graphic design for this, it's immediately a dozen just like and all of them have blue checks somehow, and you're like,
they all have blue checks.
Interesting.
So it's there's and this industry is still like very new because it used to be a cottage industry, right?
Of course.
It wasn't as big as it is now. And so I'm hoping that the creators are able to like find their space and rise, so it's just not one company that's really kind of making the decisions in the space.
Yeah, for sure. I think we definitely, this year specifically, we've seen a lot more indie creators coming out because of the stuff that went down in January. We've kind of, the community has kind of exploded outward, and has kind of, we've all just connected with each other more, and I think found new ways to be creative with each other.
Yeah. And we're hungry for it.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we're just here to tell fun stories and roll some dice. So, so I think that's all the questions I have for you. So I think that brings us to our... Yeah, it's so good. Speaking of crushing it, that brings us to our game section.
I don't know what this section is. I'm so excited, though, just by the title.
So today I have a game for you I'm calling Genre Rah Rah, where I have 5 genres. Okay. I'm going to name them.
I just got it. It's so good.
Thank you. I'm going to name them, and then I'm going to give you 20 seconds to name some sort of TTRPG system or module that fits into that.
Okay. Yeah. Ooh. Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. All right.
It's also good just to shout out fun TTRPG stuff. Yeah. How confident are you on this? What's it, 1 to 10?
100%.
100% out of 10? Great.
Yeah. Easy.
Cool. Hey, confidence is great. First one, I feel like this is an easy one because there's so many. Horror.
Okay. Well, you usually could say Call of Cthulhu, but I'm going to go with Brenda Wood Bay because I feel like the horror of the Golden Girls kind of Agatha Christie vibe is perfection.
That's a good one. That's a less well-known one too. That's one I've heard about it, but I haven't actually played it yet or like seen anyone else talking about it. That's a good one.
I think you would love it.
I have it like in my cart on Drive Through RPG. I'm pretty sure right now. I have so many that I'm just like, I'll get to that eventually.
Also, to the listeners, Brenda Wood Bay, you play as a grandma in a small little seaside town with other grandmas. All the players are grandmas, and you are solving mysteries.
Yeah,
there's a bent towards the supernatural and horror.
Yes, it's Golden Girls meets Murder, She Wrote meets, Supernatural. Like, it's, cool. Next genre is noir.
Noir. Oh, City of Mist. Easy. City of Mist is kind of like superhero noir, where you play the embodiment of some sort of myth. So, like, oh, I want to be like, you could be Excalibur. You could be the embodiment of Excalibur in a person, but in this kind of like city that has huge noir feels. The system lends heavily towards that. And you could technically kind of do some really fun noir with Candela Obscura.
Yeah.
Because noir, like a lot of like there's a lot of noir that takes place in like Victorian era. Even though like the 20s, 30s, and 40s is like really known for it. But there is a handful of like noir that focuses on like Victorian and gas lamp era.
It's funny because Candela Obscura is very much so, very similar to Blades in the Dark, which the Adventure Zone just had a noir season almost with Blades in the Dark. That was like what I was thinking. I was like, Blades in the Dark is a good noir setting, even though it's not really technically like noir, but this one, you kind of said it with the first one as well, but mystery. So not counting Brindleton Bay.
Ooh, okay, a mystery. I would probably say if we're not doing Brindlewood Bay, we're not doing that. Let's do. The clock is ticking down. I already said a couple of those. How about? Monster of the Week. Monster of the Week. It's designed to have a mystery that you need to solve. Monster of the Week is perfect because when you first start, you have to gather clues to figure out what the monster is, and you have to research it, then you have to bait it. Yeah, Monster of the Week, 100%. That's a great mystery game.
Yeah, for sure. Monster of the Week, I think, is also good even if you don't involve a monster in it. Like, the system itself lends really well just to mystery in general. Because at the end of the day, the real monster is always just man, right?
Yeah, of course.
It's always capitalism, but well.
And also, have you ever heard of Glitter Hearts?
Yeah.
So Greg, the author of Glitter Hearts, also it's going to be releasing soon a game called Mystery Business, which is kind of like a Scooby-Doo style kind of game where you play it. There's like an animal animal, and then there's the mischievous kids. That's also another fun like mystery tabletop RPG.
I'll have to keep my eye. I love Scooby-Doo, so I'll have to keep my eye out on that. Let's see. Fourth, this one, there's a lot of different options for this one, I think. Magical Realism.
Ooh, Magical Realism. I'm gonna say Kids on Brooms. Mainly in like I kind of interpret realism as like modern. And so. And I've been reading Kids on Brooms because I want to run a game in that, and it's really fun. It's very light. Like I read it and I was like, "Is that it?" I'm like, I know how to run this. This is great." And so I think Kids on Brooms is kind of like going to be my pick for like a magical realism.
Totally makes sense. We're doing Kids on Bikes for our Christmas special, and I was just looking through the book on that, and I was literally like, "Oh, that's it! Like that's so easy, so simple. It's such a nice rules light system. I love it so much."
It's like the easiest character creation.
Yeah. Also, just the exploding dice is my favorite. Just my favorite mechanic of all time. Just because it's so exciting.
It's less math.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last one. Hopefully, this doesn't trip you up. Romance.
Ooh. Okay. I want to say. Monster Hearts. Monster Hearts. When you first asked me this, I thought you were gonna maybe say like a football, like when you were saying there would be one that tripped me up. I was thinking like a Friday Night Lights genre, and I'm like, Monster Hearts would be so fun to do like a Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that works well. And then there's another one that's a duo tabletop RPG. I forget what it's called, but it's like Star-Crossed Lovers, something like that. That was also coming to mind.
There's Star-Crossed. Is it
Star-Crossed? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, that
just
was the other one that
Star-Crossed.
came to
Yeah.
mind.
Because I have a list of, like, for each one, I have a list of a couple ones. Star-Crossed was my first one on that one, so.
But yeah, Monster Hearts, because it so revolves around the idea of just like, like romance, and it's some that isn't romance, but yeah, I do think that because it just has such solid mechanics for that.
Yeah, for sure. I played a game with Madeline, that goose girl. It was called Blood Island, and it was Monster Hearts Love Island, but we were all monsters. And it was so much fun. I played a ghost cowboy. But yeah, that's all 5. You did so good. Those are all good options.
Yes.
That I think everyone should definitely play for sure.
This is a fun game. I love this game.
I was like, I feel like you're the perfect person for this game for sure.
The name, the actual mechanics. This is a fantastic game. Listen, let's make a Kickstarter of this. Let's put this game out there. But this game needs to be played by everyone.
Let's go. Let's do it. My people will call your people.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Great. That brings us to... We kind of did this a little bit with this game, but that brings us to our TTRPG Spotlight, where I ask our guests to shine a spotlight on something happening in the TTRPG world that they think people should be excited about. Devon, what do you want to shine a spotlight on today?
So, I think one thing that I've noticed, which is really fun, is like tonight I'm going to this thing called Select Thine Own Adventure. And it's at in San Francisco. We have this like very prominent kind of like drag club, which is called Oasis, and they put on these like amazing performances. And one of them is like it's kind of like a stage production D&D show, but the audience interacts with it, and that's why it's Select Thine Own Adventure. But it's really, really fun, and I think things like that are cool ways that are kind of like showing people the idea of tabletop, the idea of role play, the idea of kind of collaborative storytelling. And they're just doing it in a different medium, or they're kind of changing things up a bit. Kind of like how Alice is Missing kind of rewrote the playbook on tabletop RPGs.
Yeah.
Or there's Ghosts in the Discord. I love how I'm seeing these people, are seeing folks really try to like push the boundaries of like what tabletop is, what role playing is, and like how that is expressed in like different mediums. And I think that's really cool. And I'm excited to see people continually doing that. I love buying a new zine of a cool indie tabletop RPG, but what I love the most is when I see like people pushing the boundaries of how games are played, how they're absorbed, how they're participated in.
Yeah, for sure. The thing with tabletop is it is such a malleable art form, really. Like there's so much you can do with it. It's such a broad concept. I love it goes back to innovation, just people being innovators in this community. This community is filled with innovators for sure.
I love it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for shining a spotlight. Very interesting. Here at the end of our interview, I always love to give our guests a chance to shout out the things that they're working on. So give us what are you working on? Where can people find you doing stuff? So you can find us doing stuff everywhere on the internet under Total Party Chill. Some of the things that we've been working on is we're going to start filming our second season of This Game is Cursed in like 2-3 weeks. That is an amazing, fun actual play. The idea is the players have been Jumanji'd into a D&D game, and they have to find their way home. And that has been an absolute blast. That sounds so fun.
I was blown away by the reception of it. So people love it, and we're doing a second season, which is exciting. And then with Start Playing, we're every day we're making the site better, and we're making it easier for people to find games. So if you're looking for a game to play, and you're like looking for your next group for tabletop RPGs, for everything from D&D to Brenda Wood Bay, head over to StartPlaying.games or StartPlaying.com. We got the .com. .com.
Exciting!
I know, it's big news.
Yeah. Great. All the links where you can find all the stuff Devon's doing will be down in the description below. Devon, thank you so much for coming and talking with me. This has been so fun. I always love getting to talk with you. And thank you, audience, for coming and listening to us shoot the shit for the last 45 minutes. As always, I've been Dan the Baker. You can find me at Dan_the_Baker anywhere I want you to find me across the internet. You can always find me here at Open Table Adventures. You can see me GMing our Monster of the Week game, Park Strangers, playing in our Call of Cthulhu game, Neptune's Revenge, or our Halloween one-shot, our Christmas one-shot coming up soon. We have all of our recipe videos. We have more interviews coming. We have so much that you should all be excited for, so make sure you subscribe and stick around, because at the end of the day, you're always welcome to pull up a seat. Bye-bye.